You're watching Crypto Trader on CNBC Africa, the world's first televised cryptocurrency investment show. On this show, we try and cater for everyone, whether you've bought your first Bitcoin or whether cryptocurrency has taken over your whole life. But if there's something that we haven't covered on our show and you want to know about crypto, you can find me on Twitter at CryptoManRun, where I'll answer all your crypto-related questions. This week, we had another cryptocurrency week on the markets. It's a typical week. It started off with a tweet from the People's Daily in China, the Communist Party's national newspaper. And they said that Bitcoin trading would be banned in China. And they cited their source as Caixin. And those were the guys who broke the ICO ban before ICOs were actually banned. So the source did have some kind of credibility. This morning, I looked at the markets and you could still buy and sell Bitcoin on the Chinese markets. So heaven knows if it was just a rumor or if there's any substance behind it. In the interim though, articles were published by the Wall Street Journal, by Bloomberg, all quoting this tweet and the source saying that Bitcoin trading is now banned in China. But as I said, today you can still buy Bitcoins on Chinese exchanges. As if that wasn't enough, earlier this week, Charlie Lee at Satoshi Light on Twitter and the founder of the Litecoin token tweeted a beautiful picture in his HODL shirt saying that he has it with good authority from someone that he trusts that China is banning Bitcoin trading. Well, Bitcoins are still trading in China and the tweet that Charlie Lee posted has been removed, but the markets responded. As if that wasn't enough, the CEO of JP Morgan also earlier this week comes out and says that Bitcoin is a fraud and is in a bubble. But in this article or in this video, he mentions that his daughter is buying Bitcoins. So lots going on the Bitcoin market, and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies feeling like Conor McGregor after a few bouts with Floyd Mayweather. Someone that doesn't know much about boxing, but does know a lot about the blockchain and even more about China is Samson Mao. Samson was the chief operating officer at BTC. Samson, the People's Bank of China, have they banned Bitcoin trading?
I don't think it's a ban. It's likely going to be some restrictions on converting or accepting RMB or CNY at exchanges. But it's not a ban on Bitcoin. I don't think it's also a ban on exchanges per se.
This morning when I logged onto the Chinese exchanges, it seemed like everything was going very well. The volumes are high, there's lots of trades going through, and it seems like it's business as usual.
Well, there's been no official announcement so far. There have been a lot of fake news images circulating around that are showing various things, but so far there's been zero official communications at all.
Samson, you and I have been around for a long time in the Bitcoin world, and this is not the first time that China or the People's Bank of China has threatened and done stuff, but usually it just adds on just a little bit more regulation, so KYC, AML. Do you think this is another one of those cases?
There was a period back early 2017 where exchanges were implementing some new systems. This sounds a bit different. It sounds more reactionary than the previous time. Also, last time there was a lot of official communications coming from the PBOC, and this time there's nothing. So it's a little bit odd. I'm not really sure.
It does seem strange because China are the biggest miners of Bitcoin in the world. They account for a big part of the world's Bitcoin trade. Why would China shut that down?
It could just be due to the hype, due to the rapid price rise that might be disconcerting. Digital currencies like Bitcoin, they kind of paint fiat currencies in a poor light because you see them rapidly appreciating and people think that it's a hedge against the fiat currency.
Bitcoin at under $3,900. Are you accumulating at these levels?
I'm a long-term hodler, so I think it's always a good time to buy Bitcoin. Price movements like these, on certain times like these, they are good to shake out the weaker hands and give people an opportunity to get a better price for their position.
Spoken like a true Bitcoin veteran. Joining us on the show again is Brian Kelly, all the way from New York City. Brian, has the People's Bank of China banned Bitcoin trading, yes or no?
Well, they have shut down the exchanges. So, in that sense, yes, they have banned it. My view is that likely they will come out with some regulations and get these firms licensed. All they're really trying to do is make sure that they have capital controls and money isn't leaking out of the country via Bitcoin. I think in the long run, it's going to be very hard for China to ban it. It's going to be hard for any government to ban it. And it wouldn't make a lot of sense in the long run because competitively, Korea and Japan are really hot on Bitcoin. I don't think China wants to see them get ahead.
But Brian, this morning when I went onto the Chinese exchanges, they were trading Bitcoin.
Right, so it's a slow process here. They're starting with the over-the-counter traders at first, and then they're going to pause these things as they go. I mean, it's entirely possible that they let Bitcoin trade as long as the exchanges can tell them where the money's coming from and where the money's going to. That, again, this goes back to they're not banning Bitcoin. All they're really trying to do is understand the capital flows into and out of the country.
So Brian, what has that done to the prices of tokens this week?
Well, it hasn't been good for the prices of tokens. We already started with this rumor a couple days ago, actually last week, really, when Bitcoin was close to almost 5,000, right? And so, since then, it's just been this slow drip down, this slow bleed down. And it's more of a sentiment hit than anything else because China used to be a very big part of the market. It used to be 90% of the volume, although some of that was probably fake volume. But nonetheless, China was a big part of the market. That's not the case anymore. Korea, Japan, this is where all the trading's happening right now. And so, while China is a hit to sentiment, it's not really a fundamental hit.
What about Ethereum and Neo? Those guys are like the platforms for the ICOs. How have they responded?
They've all responded horribly. Neo got hurt the most, primarily because their tagline was, "We're the Ethereum of China." That being said, it has got a boost. It was added to Bitfinex, which kind of stopped some of the bleeding there. Again, I think in the long run, these platforms are going to be fine. We're going through this short-term period of pain. But, I actually like Neo and I like Ethereum. Right around here, I mean, maybe we get a little bit lower on Ethereum. Maybe we get down to 200. But at 200, I'd probably be backing up the truck to buy some Ethereum.
I saw that IOTA's price got hit hard this week. What happened?
So yeah, with IOTA, there was a flaw that was found that doesn't exist in it now, but MIT researchers found a flaw. It was what they called a collision. So basically, you could have two transactions happening at the same time in a sense. So that's a pretty serious flaw. And so the price of IOTA sold off. And I think it's going to stay lower for a while. The problem you have with IOTA now is most cryptographers say that the flaw itself was a relatively, or should have been noticed, and was a relatively simple error. And so everybody's wondering what else is in there that could be a problem. So I think, sentiment-wise on IOTA, it's gonna be a problem for them for a little while here.
What about Bitcoin Cash at under $500?
Listen, I love Bitcoin Cash. I think there's a lot of positive things going to be coming out here. In particular, let's say we get Bitcoin 2x, the 2x part of it. Let's say that's off the table. That should be very bullish and very positive for Bitcoin Cash. People kind of dismiss Bitcoin Cash saying, "Oh, it's going to go to zero," and people have been surprised that it stayed here. And I look at the two now as Bitcoin is your settlement layer, and Bitcoin Cash is now almost like you are a monetary aggregate, like an M1 or something like that. So that's the velocity part in this whole ecosystem. So, Bitcoin Cash, I think, has a decent future ahead of it.
So Brian, to confirm, you're saying this is not really the end of crypto, but probably an amazing time to buy.
Yeah, this is not the end of crypto whatsoever. It's not even close to the end of crypto. We're in the first couple innings of crypto here. Yes, this is a time to buy. Will I get the exact price right? Probably not. But you know what? This is a time to buy. You want to buy when there's blood in the streets, and I'm starting to sense that a bit.
China, 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 and China. That's all we hear in the crypto markets this week. So this week, all the way from China, are the guys that run what is being called the Ethereum of China, and that's called Neo. With me is their founder, Dai Hongfei. Dai, You guys are in China. How are the regulations affecting what you guys are doing?
The trading in the market is just the volume dropped very dramatically, and the rumors are that all the exchanges will be closed in China. So everybody is waiting for the regulation.
How does that stop what you guys are doing at Neo? Or tell us a little bit about what you guys are actually doing at Neo.
Neo actually is a blockchain or an open network for smart economy. So it is not built. It is not built for ICOs. A few weeks ago, the Chinese regulators just said ICO is not allowed in China, and it definitely affects us.
So you say that your blockchain is not actually made for ICOs, it's made for smart economies. What's the difference?
As of today, you can see a lot of ICOs. They are they're not connected to the real economy. So there are many decentralized applications on Ethereum, but rarely I met someone who is actually using those decentralized applications. All the usage is trading different tokens. That is not what we want to do. We want to have real economy running on the Neo blockchain.
So you want to create economic applications that run on smart contracts on the Neo blockchain, is that right?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And not to be used as this token or this platform for issuing tokens for ICOs?
Yeah, so not solely be used by issuing tokens, because there can be a lot of real economical activities. There are three fundamental pillars of Neo, the blockchain. So that is, these are digital assets, smart contracts, and digital identities. Only if you have digital identity, you can link the real economy, the real world, the physical world with the blockchain world.
And is your blockchain already working? Is your blockchain up and running already?
Actually, the mainnet had been launched for about a year. And a month ago, we upgraded to 2.0 after the rebranding. After we rebranded from Nshares to Neo, we launched the 2.0 mainnet.
And are there any applications actually working on your blockchain already?
Yeah, there are some test applications, but not that all full-blown applications. We just launched the smart contract a month ago, so there are many development ongoing, but they have not been officially launched yet.
How many contributors in your blockchain?
Neo is a very community-driven project, so we have, I would say, about 100 to 300 developers over the world, but only a few of them are the core developers.
And there's two tokens when you look at Neo. There's the Neo token and then there's this gas token. What's the difference between the two?
It's a very innovative design. We have this so-called dual token design. Because in Ethereum and in other blockchains, the token serves as two functions. One is like the equity or the voting power or the ownership of the blockchain, and also as a transaction fee. So it's coupled. The two usages are coupled. It's very weird. Like when you want to buy a cup of coffee in Starbucks, you need to spend the equity, the shares of Starbucks. So it's a little bit unnatural. So we decoupled those two usages. Neo token is what we call governance token. You use Neo to vote to govern the blockchain. And the gas token is what we call the utility token. You use it to pay for transaction fees, to deploy smart contracts, to execute smart contracts.
So gas is the mineable token and Neo is in fixed supply then?
It's a little bit like you are virtually mining gas with your Neo token. So every gas that is consumed on the blockchain will be redistributed proportionally to all the Neo holders.
Do you think this ban of ICOs in China is temporary or permanent?
I won't say it's temporary because the regulators had said very clear that raising money to the general public is not allowed in China, or otherwise at least you need to get approved first. But raising money to accredited private investors is still legal in China. So if you want to build a decentralized application, you want to get money from the Chinese investors, you can talk to them privately. And if there is less than 200 investors, that will be regarded as a private fundraising.
So they've gone from public fundraising to attracting just a few high net worth individuals or institutions. The folk in Australia are having their very first ICO, and this ICO solves the real world problem of power and energy. With me on the show, Dr. Gemma Green, who's the founder of Power Ledger. Gemma, tell us, what are you guys doing at Power Ledger?
Power Ledger has developed blockchain technology that enables peer-to-peer trading of electricity. And this means that people can get a proper return for the electricity they generate but don't need. It's been a really big missing up until now, as people that have solar panels have gotten the raw end of the deal. And our platform means electricity can be made and consumed locally across distribution lines, avoiding transmission lines and stopping the rise in cost of electricity.
So what you're saying is that if I've got an apartment or a building, and on my apartment or building I've got solar panels and I'm generating electricity, I can now sell the electricity that I create using the blockchain.
Yeah, it means that you can sell it to your neighbour or give it to your mum.
So every house can become an electricity factory, so to speak.
Absolutely. We call it the democratization of power and the creation of citizen utilities.
And tell us, how are you using the blockchain?
So the blockchain is the database that records all the electricity that is generated and that is transferred across the network and how much is consumed. And off the back of that, you can settle financial payment. And our platform does both of those things. It records electricity and financial payments and settles the bill between the buyer and the seller.
And you're doing Australia's very first ICO. How much money are you raising? How many tokens are you issuing?
We're selling a total of 350 million tokens, and we sold 190 million of those as a part of our pre-sale for 17 million Australian dollars, which is about 15 million US. And we've just commenced our public sale where we're selling 140 million tokens.
So what's the total number of US dollars that you're trying to raise?
We're targeting around $30 million.
And how quickly did your pre-ICO sell out?
Our pre-ICO sold out in about 72 hours. And we had a private pre-sale before that, which went on for about a week.
And what's the use case for the token that you guys are issuing? How does it actually work?
We have a twin token system. So sparks are a tokenized unit of electricity, and customers, when they transfer money from their bank account to Power Ledger to trade electricity, get sparks. And one spark is always 1 cent, or the lowest unit of currency in their country. And then the second token we have is a power token, and that's what we're selling as a part of this ICO. And a power token is both a license to trade peer-to-peer and a bond. And so utilities that want to allow their customers to trade peer-to-peer need power tokens to put up as a bond on the system so they can buy sparks and sell them to their customers. And when the customers go to redeem their sparks for dollars or cents, the power token is released from the bond and used to fund the redemption. So it's the way our blockchain self-regulates, and it ensures the integrity of the system.
So only one of the tokens will ever appreciate in value, and the Spark token will always remain a 1 cent token, so to speak. Is that right?
Correct. So the consumer is not exposed to cryptocurrency fluctuations. If they put $1 on the platform, they get 100 sparks, and when they redeem that, they'll get $1 back. If
our viewers want to participate in your ICO, where do they go?
They can go to mainsale.powerledger.io.
Bitcoin Jesus is what they call our next guest. And that's probably because he's the founder of Bitcoin.com and the first investor in Bitcoin-related ventures. We've got Roger there all the way from Hong Kong. Roger, you've been quite vocal about Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash. Do you think that this new software upgrade in Bitcoin SegWit, solves Bitcoin's problems?
Obviously not. SegWit is active on the Bitcoin mainnet now, and transaction fees are still high. It takes forever for them to get confirmed. The user experience on the mainnet of Bitcoin is still bad, but it's bad by design. The people behind SegWit openly say they want the fees to be high, they want the blocks to be full, they want the transaction times to be uncertain. So they've designed for something that's not useful. So that's why I'm really upset with the whole roadmap of Bitcoin. If you make something expensive and inconvenient, guess what? People aren't going to use it. And that's why we've seen this giant explosion in all sorts of altcoins, because if they're faster, cheaper, and easier to use and provide a better user experience, people are going to start using them, myself included.
So, Roger, we're both believers in the original Satoshi white paper, which said a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And an electronic cash system can't have slow transaction times and high transaction fees. Does Bitcoin Cash solve this problem?
Yeah, so far, it seems to be on the right path. Bitcoin Cash is only about a month old at this point. The fact that it's the third biggest cryptocurrency in the entire world is pretty amazing. To send someone Bitcoin Cash, it costs less than a penny at the moment, and your transactions are always confirmed in the very next block. Lots and lots of businesses are starting to build upon it. There's still a lot more infrastructure on the old legacy Bitcoin, but even at Bitcoin.com, all of the new products that we're building are being built on top of Bitcoin Cash, not on top of the SegWit version of Bitcoin. So that should tell you something right there.
So does Bitcoin Cash solve all the problems? I mean, are you happy with Bitcoin Cash?
So one of the things that needs to be solved now for both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash is increase the amount of privacy that's involved there. And that's what makes money money. If every piece of money is not the same as every other piece of money, there's a special word for it even. It's called fungibility. But fungibility is just another word for privacy. If we don't have privacy, the money's not fungible. And if the money's not fungible, then it's not good money.
And what are you guys actually doing at Bitcoin.com?
We have everything at Bitcoin.com. So we have one of the world's most popular Bitcoin news websites. We have a wallet you can download. You can play games. You can go shopping. There's a forum. There's absolutely everything. Whether you're an experienced Bitcoiner who's been involved for years and years, or someone who's brand new to Bitcoin, it's the fantastic place for you to get all the information and all the tools you need to start having a fun time with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general.
Privacy coins or anonymity coins is something that we've spoken about previously on our show. And I'm trying to work out why we need these privacy coins. So with me from the UK, I've got Jack Gavigan, and he's from Zcash. Jack, what do we need privacy coins for?
Well, privacy is an essential requirement for commerce. People don't want the rest of the world to know how much they're earning or how they're spending their money.
And how does Zcash achieve privacy?
So we use a new form of cryptography called zero-knowledge proofs. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to send a shielded transaction where the sender, your identity, the recipient, and the amount of the amount of currency being sent is shielded from the blockchain. And that means that you can transact privately, you can shield your dealings from the rest of the world, but we also allow, if people want to send transparent transactions, because we believe that there are many use cases where transparency is desirable.
Last week on our show, we had the guys from Monero. How's Zcash different from Monero?
So we use a very different approach to privacy. Monero uses a form of cryptography called ring signatures. That approach hides your transaction amongst a group of, say, about 10 other transactions. With zero-knowledge proofs, your transaction is hidden amongst every other single shielded transaction that has ever taken place. So we think that's a better approach. We think it's less likely that in the future people will be able to analyze the blockchain to de-anonymize transactions. Now, there are downsides. It's a bit more computationally intensive to generate a zero-knowledge proof, but we're working very hard to make it more efficient. We also think that zero-knowledge proofs have the potential to be more functional or flexible, and in the longer term, we're hoping to be able to use that sort of potential to make money smarter and more functional.
There's a perception out there that Zcash has done some kind of deal with one of the major banks. Is this true, and what does the deal look like?
It is true. We have a technology partnership with JP Morgan, which is one of the world's largest financial institutions. But I think it's very important to be clear that it's a technology partnership rather than anything to do with the Zcash cryptocurrency. So JP Morgan very early on recognized the potential of blockchain technology to revolutionize the way that financial business is conducted. And they've created a fork of the Ethereum code base customized for use by financial institutions. That's called Quorum. And it's an open source code base. Anybody can use it. They approached us about adding the technology that underpins Zcash, that zero knowledge proofs based cryptography to Quorum. So we're working on that at the moment. It's very, very close to being released. We'll probably unveil it in the next month or so. And what that will allow is financial institutions will be able to use blockchains that are shared with their competitors, but they'll be able to transact privately.
A few weeks ago, we featured the guys from Enigma before their ICO. And I thought what we should do is catch up with them and see how the ICO went. So joining us from the USA are the team from Enigma. Guys, how did the ICO go?
I think the ICO went very well. We've put a queue system in place to make sure we don't place any congestion on the system. That worked out very, very well. We had a very convenient ICO for everyone involved, and we sold out within a few hours. We have over 5,000 new Enigma token holders.
Tell me about how much money you raised in the total ICO.
So pre-ICO started around July, and we work with accredited investors in order to participate in our pre-sale. That was closed around August 15th to 20th, so 3 weeks before the token sale. We sold around 20 million worth of Enigma tokens in the pre-sale, and then the pre-sale was closed, and then we waited for the actual sale, which happened on Monday.
So how much have you raised in total?
We raised 45 million in total. So 20 million, as John is saying, came from the pre-ICO, and the rest came from the community.
Now you've got $40 million. What are you doing with the money?
We need to build Enigma. So we are going to continue building Catalyst. We've actually already released live trading last week, which is 4 weeks ahead of schedule. That's the kind of momentum we want to keep. We want to lay down roadmap for our product, but we want to beat that roadmap consistently. And also there is the Enigma data marketplace. That is the protocol layer that we're going to build. That is what many people came to back us for, and we are excited to focus on that right now.
So I'm looking at my screen and it shows red, red, and more red. Blood, blood, and more blood. But if you're going to trade crypto, you need to get used to stuff like this. So until next week, if you want to know anything about crypto, you can get me at CryptoManRun on Twitter. Until then, happy trading.